If you enjoy learning about how training your mentality can help improve your game, how to maximize the enjoyment of what you do, and how to pursue and become the best version of yourself, then this episode's for you.
Thanks for USA for all your support. We would not be able to have awesome episodes like this one if it wasn't for you. So thank you very much, and we love repping your brand.
Ari, take us away.
All right. Well, another episode down.
Came and went.
Sorry.
No, we already started.
Another episode came and went, and now we're here with another friend of ours, and I'm really excited for what this episode has in store. But before then, as usual, I think, Steven, this time you should kick us off with a little recap of how you feel about last episode and just in general, where we're at right now.
You know, I've been spending a lot of time with the last episode because of clipping. And
Steven, our registered clipper at the moment.
I'm the new, for now, as of recording this episode, I am our resident clipper.
Until we get our intern.
Until we get an intern. And so I listened through it a few times now, and I'm a huge fan of Anne's ability to just story tell. That was really beautiful, and I've thought a lot about, you know, we need a fencing documentary of sorts. We need people to just sit there and tell the story of their path in the sport, their engagement with it, and deliver it. So that was just super cool to be a part of. It was great to have her on. We didn't get to do the little unboxing in the last episode, but huge thank you to Anne for bringing us a little gift. What were your thoughts on the last one?
Anne's just awesome. You know, we told it to her last episode. She's a great teammate to have. She organized a lot of really fun stuff for us at the New York Athletic Club that we didn't even highlight on the episode. Right. She helped us get really cool merch, Lululemon merch for our team. And I think everyone on Team USA loved having her be a part of their experience. And it was awesome that she's now part of the Direct Elimination experience.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to interview her and share our passion together for everyone listening. And thanks again to everyone who is on our journey with us.
Yeah, I was on that note as well. Just in the past week, I've been getting a lot of people that I wasn't expecting to listen to the podcast come up to me at, like, mostly at the athletic club, but just come up and say to my face, like, "Hey, you guys are really doing a great job with the podcast." And I'm like, are you sure? Like,
yeah, we didn't expect that. But
and like some of the people it's coming from too, I'm just like, really?
Thanks for listening.
You liked it and you listened to it, you know? But so thank you to everyone who's listened to these episodes. Really make it all worth it, and keep the feedback coming. We're open to it. We're what's the word I'm looking for? We're pliable.
Oh, there we go. This time you thought of it on the Eli episode.
I still can't think of what I was trying to find there, but
yeah. Well, anyways, let's
get into it.
Today, we have, and this is just some fun abridged results from his resume. We have an individual NCAA champion, an individual senior national champion, an individual Ivy League champion, and most recently, the reigning Pan American men's épée champion and current world number 19, and our teammate and friend, Tristan Szapary. Take it off.
Let's go.
Woo!
All
dang.
Right.
Flashing the pre-air. Here, let's move this guy back here.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thanks.
A really great job.
Tristan's
I was one of the ranks. Yeah.
Tristan's one of our newest listeners as of today.
I watched them all at 2x speed, and I'm going to watch them back at 1x speed because they were that good.
Thank you. It's awesome having you here, man.
Also, I'll say I got the chance to listen to the Anne Sabula episode, Unlisted. What you guys said is right. Like, it's actually incredible. Like, what an incredible story. I am lucky enough to have been a small part of that journey of hers, the Olympics. I got to be there as one of the training partners, and I have to say, like, everything she's like, the energy you got from her being on the podcast of just being like so magnetic, you know, easy to talk to, sharing stories. That's exactly how she was, even leading up to the games, which is like for all of these athletes one of the most stressful times of their lives.
Oh, yeah.
Happiest, but also emotional and stressful. And me and the other training partner, shout out Isis, I remember watching Ann win her first.
Isis Washington, not the Isis that some of you might be thinking of.
Isis Washington, good friend, and the other training partner who was out there in Paris.
Thanks, I guess. Sorry. Appreciate it.
Ignore that one. We were up in the stands, and I remember Ann winning her first bout in the 64s, and I was like literally near tears. And with my own wins, I've never been brought to tears. Like I've seen some athletes, you know, when it's so emotional, you cry when you win. It's just never been me. And yet I watched Ann win and Hadley win, and they were kind of doing it at the same time. And me and Isis were going crazy, and it brought us, like, I remember, and I was sitting behind her parents, and like I don't even think they were crying. So, yeah, she deserves all of that. I hope she comes back. It's gonna be like a MJ moment.
Yeah,
I'm back.
Yeah, we hope so too. And even if she doesn't, I really hope she is happy doing what she's doing, because she brings that energy probably to whatever it is that she works on. And I just think she's a high success individual and a strong teammate. So
Corporate America, you're going to be lucky to end up with that one.
yeah, I wonder if she got a return offer from those internships. Anyways, without
Enough
further
about
ado.
it. We're here with Tristan today.
Yeah.
And so Tristan, we were kind of hoping we could just jump right into it. And, you know, you've now listened to where the bar is. So will you grace us with your origin story?
Of course.
How'd you find fencing? Where are you from? What's the deal? Give us the lowdown.
Some big shoes to fill. So I'm born in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I got two older sisters. Go Birds. And I came from a very sporty family. Both my older sisters ran. One of them ran in college in a Division I program.
What'd she run?
She did like all three. She did like mid distance, but she also ran, you know, cross country,
Nice.
like all 3 seasons, indoor, outdoor. So my whole family, you know, running was kind of our they were always active, but running was the thing that they had us do. And I remember like they would have me run, you know, like 5Ks. I was like 7 years old on like the weekend. I was like, I don't think this is for me. I tried a bunch of other sports too. I vividly remember playing basketball in just like one of the rec leagues. But they like didn't teach you how to play basketball. They just like, you showed up and I guess assumed you know how to play basketball. And I was like 8 years old. So like the entire season, I did not touch the ball once. I just like ran around. And then once when my parents were actually watching, like the ball was coming down for a rebound. And I just like looked up at it and it hit me in the nose and I just got a bloody nose like all over the court. So, and funnily enough, now I actually love basketball. I love watching basketball. But I tried a bunch of sports. And at the same time, I also, you know, everyone always says this, or many people say this, but I was watching Star Wars.
Hell
My
yeah.
grandma, she was a big influence in my life. And whenever I go to her house, she introduced me to like all of the Star Wars movies. So I watch all of them. I had a bunch of lightsabers. She was also super into history. So she'd like get me like books about knights. So there were a lot of like swords in my life. And then my parents, I went to a French international school, really small school. And just so happened that one of their after school programs was like a fencing class. But it wasn't actually a fencing class. We just did footwork, like, which is kind of a hard way of getting kids into like a sport, you know? You're not like doing the fun thing. You're like literally just grinding, doing footwork. But it wasn't actually a fencing class. It was like an aftercare. Like your parents couldn't pick you up, so this is what you do.
Footwork.
Yeah, literal footwork. So, but it's and funnily enough, that kind of I guess speaks to the rest of my like how I approach fencing in general. But they sent me to a club in Philly, kind of the only big club, Fencing Academy Philadelphia. And there I met a super cool group of kids in just a really cool environment. And I honestly have to credit, that's now we call it FAOP. It used to be FAP, changed for various reasons. But
Are you a fan of the change?
Part of me is a bit of a purist, wants to go back to my roots, but I also understand for the sake of the future kids why they don't want FAP on their socks.
Yeah.
Yeah, still have those socks, by the way. Sometimes I whip them out.
Never throw them away.
I won't. Yeah, so I gotta credit FAOP for basically everything, because it wasn't even, like I said, like I started with footwork, and kind of the mentality at FAOP was like, they don't give you your blade, like your actual like, you know, épée until you're like 2 years in or like a year and a half in. There's all these like,
Wow.
you know, levels that you have to go through, and you're basically just running games with a bunch of kids. So I loved it. It was like, oh, like this is sports. This is fun. I'm not just like getting thrown into the fire. I'm actually just like, you know, playing like steal the bacon with a bunch of kids or handball. Like, you know, every fencer at a club in America is like falling in love with handball or glove ball or whatever you call it. Yeah, so that's kind of how I started in fencing, because I just loved being around this really core group of kids who I'm friends with all these
Do you
fencers
want to
now.
shout any of them out on here?
Ian, Adler, Nathan Sinai, Maddie Kim, Maya Weintraub, Natalie Kim. There's a whole group of people. Victor Ginsburg, like, you know, and a lot of those people don't even fence to this day, or they fence recreationally, but, you know, people I still stay in touch with because, you know, like that's what we did. Like after school, we'd go and we'd hang out at fencing. And it wasn't until later in my fencing career that I think like fell in love with the sport, but also fell in love with, like, you know, the competitive environment and chasing sort of, you know, becoming a better version of yourself. But that's how I kind of started in fencing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Appreciate that.
You said two things that I liked a lot. As one, you know, that fundamental aspect of, like, if you're this, like, very classical approach of, like, teaching kids fencing is just like they don't touch a blade for a year or like 2 years or 6 months, whatever arbitrary like system you have in place. Like I didn't start that way, and not a day goes by where I wish, or that I don't wish I had started that way. You know, who knows if I'd still be doing it or if I would have had the attention span when I started to, like, continue. But I think that is such a great way to start and, like, learn the fundamentals of this weirdly complex sport.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like, hearing you shout out the community, like, of those, you know, those friends you had growing up, that, like, tight knit community that we get through fencing. I think that's a unique experience. And I'm just, you know, happy to hear it shouted out, really.
Yeah. I relate to that at Alliance Fencing Academy. Right. The family that I got to be a part of is still family to me. And, you know, some of the people that I grew up with, just going after school, looking forward to seeing them after school, playing the games, catching up, sharing interests, and then doing this fun sport that we enjoyed together. You know, they're still some of my best friends to this day. I stay in touch with them, play video games, see them, visit them, have them visit me. And it's beautiful because this sport that we have become so entrenched in for our own journeys of, you know, trying to become the best version of ourselves, as you said, has brought us so much more than just that. It's brought us all of the doors that it's opened internationally, schools, jobs, etc. And a large part of that is the people that we've gotten to meet. And, you know, for me at least, you two are part of the circle that I am going to keep post fencing. And, you know, I'm just grateful for it. We wouldn't know each other without the sport. So
and who knows if we would have even, you know, derived the same joy or the same longevity in the sport without those people either. You know, it could have been a completely different experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My turn.
Your turn.
You said you're from Philly.
Yes, sir.
So we wanted to bring a little piece of Philly to you.
No way.
That being said, couldn't find a Philly cheesesteak. So we will be tasting some chopped cheese on this podcast. And you will be letting us know how close to a Philly cheesesteak it tastes.
Please, let's bring it out. Damn, I'm gonna house a chopped cheese on a.
You don't have to house it, and it's only cut in half. So we could cut it into fourths. DJ, do you want some of this?
I'm good for now.
DJ, our studio manager, is good for now. This is greasy. Thank God I got napkins this time. All right, let's get a knife.
Look at that thing. Already I can tell. Presence of tomatoes in the chopped cheese.
All right.
You know,
where are we going?
I've never seen a Philly cheesesteak with
Tristan,
tomatoes.
how much do you want? Do you want the
to
full
know.
half?
I don't think anybody wants the full half.
Give me a bite and
All right.
I'll hit the rest later.
Yeah, that's what they all say. We got to see if this tastes better than.
It's gonna be some ASMR.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We got the ASMR here for it. Steven, you can
Thanks,
have
buddy.
this one. Oh my God.
And Ari's going to one bite the other half.
No.
Shout out Philly.
But I will one bite this, whatever this is, quarter.
I will say, every time in, you know, like so far in my career, every time the Eagles have had a great season, I have also happened to have a great fencing season, including, you know, this past season where they became world champion, Super Bowl champion. Wow, one bite, Ari, one bite.
You really did it.
Slurping and everything.
Stop.
I'm literally gonna take off my headphones and do that.
Doing too much.
Notice no cheers from Ari here. Let's get a cheers.
Yeah, that was pretty rude of me. All right, fine. I'll eat the other half. So, as you're eating that, how does it compare to a Philly cheesesteak?
I mean, it's just honestly an entirely different thing.
You got mayo, lettuce,
Damn it.
tomato. I am partial to the Philly cheesesteak.
All right.
So, what is present and or not present on a Philly cheesesteak?
I love. Well, obviously bread was very important.
Mm-hmm.
Cheese is very important.
Mhm.
People like cheese whiz, provolone. I like the coupe cheddar, or American.
Mhm.
And then I like also some mushrooms and onions as a classic. But some people are purists. They but yeah. And also, everyone from Philly or Philly adjacent has like their spot that they go to.
What's
I
your
like-
spot?
Well, I had there's a place called Larry's. It's like right on City Line Avenue. That's nearby. That I really like. D'Angelo's is also really good. And there's this new place in Reading Terminal. I actually forget the name, but I went back with I was visiting recently. My dad took me there because it just opened and it's also fire.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry this wasn't a Philly cheesesteak, but I thought it was going to be a fun bit.
No, that's a great
That was a good bit. I also didn't realize I was kind of snackish either, so this was good.
I was just hungry.
I'm a hungry boy. Shout out to Seth Kelsey for that idea. Thanks. He's like, you can't have Tristan on without Philly cheesesteak. I think he might have said you got to take him to Larry's. I was like, we're not filming this in Larry's.
That's funny.
Maybe next time we have Tristan on, we'll film in Larry.
Yeah, Tristan, next one we'll rent out Larry's.
Let's do it.
Well, that was fun. But it's more of an icebreaker for...
The more I eat it, the more I enjoy it.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I mean, I love it. Like that's great.
Chopped cheese is so good. It's probably really bad, but it's so good.
Does the job.
The bodega we went to made it in under 5 minutes. They claimed they would, and they did. And I was thankful and impressed and grateful.
So that's why I was waiting outside for so long.
Yeah,
Well,
that was the train delays.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So while Steven's finishing it up, it looks like Tristan might be done for now. Maybe
it's
not.
just bread now.
Oh, it's just ready. Yeah, yeah.
I'll do
Well,
that
I'm
part
gonna take my
later.
That's
time.
Josh.
This is great.
So thanks for telling us about who you are and where you come from. I think that's really important to character and just to defining the rest of your life. People love to say we're products of our environment, and whether or not we are fully destined to only be products of our environment, that's a philosophical question. We definitely are, to an extent, products of our environment. And I'm really happy to hear that you came from such a positive and nourishing environment, because that's, in many cases, the first step. There are so many kids these days that I see getting pushed so hard into the sport and pushed too hard at a young age. And their love, whether or not it ever even, is a part of their journey, is definitely dimmed out by the time they're 15, 16, whatever, because not just USA Fencing offering all this exposure and intense competition experience for 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Anyways, the parents also push it super hard because naturally they see other people doing it and they have to get an edge, and all these kids get burnt out. And it's just so beautiful to see stories where that's not the case. And that's one of the reasons I think you've been such a bright force within USA Men's Epée. This all brings us to our next question, which is our first official segment. Actually, it's not, but it's...
We should
really honestly
label it as that.
But what was your all-in moment in fencing? Everyone has a different time or period or one acute moment that they can remember where they decided, this is it. I'm doing this. I'm buying all into this. And I want to be the best at this, etc. Do you remember yours?
Yeah. So it's funny, when I was describing sort of my development of the sport, so then I said and then I got into high school, and that's when I actually started getting better at the sport. That being said, I was good, but I wasn't amazing. I think many of the top senior athletes, especially now, had these crazy results when they were younger. And I'd slowly and surely got there. I actually started in foil for 5 years. People don't know that. It was a C in foil.
We were going to ask you about that later. But
really?
Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, I spilled the beans.
No, it's good. It's good.
But I kind of came to epée a little late compared to everyone else, and I had good results, but I just barely missed out on cadet team, and right after that I had a really terrible season in juniors. It was that was sort of, it's not beginner's luck, but people kind of at that point knew me. Like, okay, like now there's this kid, we got to take him seriously. And then that following junior season, like went terribly. And I remember my mom said, there's this really good sports psych guy nearby. You should go check him out. Shout out Mitch Green in the Philadelphia area.
Shout out Mitch Green.
Yeah, he's right over there.
Yeah. And yeah, it was really game changing for my entire, not only sport, but also as like the way I view performance. Like it kind of changed the way I like walked into a test at school. I went for like 4 months. I treated it like a lecturer, and like I brought a notebook, took notes the whole time. And after those 4 months, like nothing was the same for my fencing. And then immediately, so that season, I sort of like was able to get my feet back under me. I used a lot of the techniques that he taught me, a lot of like mental techniques, and made my first junior team. And then COVID happens. So like this big result, I was like or this big goal I was trying to get. I was trying to get like the USA mask. Like honestly, the mask was like half the reason I wanted to do it.
I have the same.
It's like
same
all
story.
all of
it.
it.
Same story.
In the merch and like having like a jacket that they send you, like that was half the battle.
I heard they don't even give that much merch anymore.
Makes me sad. But
damn.
Once I actually got that, COVID happens, and we have like 2 years or a year and a half where there's no competition. And during that time, I was like just now starting to hit my stride with fencing and figuring things out and implementing all these mental things. And then COVID happens. There's no more competitions. That big thing I was trying to get to, Junior World Championships, is sort of like now potentially never going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen in the whole world. We're like locked in our houses with our parents, and like everyone like hates each other. And then like I didn't actually stop training. Like I did all of those things that I was sort of doing. Of course, I wasn't bouting or competing, but like all of a sudden I got my dad to help me hammer like a pillow into the basement. I just like hit it all day. And I did all these things that I think, not necessarily, I realized that it wasn't necessarily like the competition that was the point. It was like the process. And that's something that people, a lot of high athletes, like that's something that they value, is like they're process driven. But for me, I think like that COVID really taught me that is I had just as much fun, like working without any like tangible outcome of like, okay, this is the readout of my success. I just got like third at this result and then first at this one. So yeah, like, and also I'll shout out FAP again. When like COVID started like loosening up a little bit and we had like less restrictions, me, Ian Adler, Nathan Sinai, some of those guys I shouted out before, we could finally, like originally what we'd do is we'd fence each other in the driveway of like one of the guys' houses. And then once they loosened up a little more and we could go inside, then we'd fence inside like this big, like the gym, but of course no one's going anymore. Our coach would just let us in and we'd fence with mask on. And we like, those were some of the hardest practices I ever did because we was like, we had nothing else to do. Like this was just the fun activity for the day. It was just like work out really hard, fence really hard. And in that time is when I'm like starting to actually figure out my fencing. And yet like I'm fencing the same guys like the whole time. So then and also the third thing that happened, this is kind of convoluted. I also watched The Last Dance. Like while we're like Last Dance came out, my dad and I were watching it together and I got obsessed with it because it was like, you just watch MJ turn into this like competitive beast. And that's also a moment I realized like, oh, okay. Like there's kind of levels to this and like there's your sport, but then completely separate from your sport, there's like this kind of ambiguous X factor. Some might like call it the dog factor or whatever that is. Like some internal, something inside of you can like completely, no matter how good you are, like it can elevate to the next level. And watching that was pretty inspiring. So then finally COVID sort of ends, or at least the restrictions end and competitions come back. I have a really decent junior world championships, but then after that I had a series of like domestic results at NACs that kind of completely surprised me. Before that I hadn't even, I'd performed at the junior level and the cadet level, but Div 1 I'd like lost in the 64s, 32s every time. And then my first one back I get top 4. Actually I fenced both, during this whole stint I fenced both of you. Yeah. But either way, like this was that time when I realized a lot of things about not only did I put the pieces together in my fencing, I also realized that there's some like real like harnessing that like competitive inner factor is like really fun and it can just be like really enriching. And then also the third thing being like you don't need competition, you don't need like those external validation markers to keep pushing yourself. And I think those three things have kind of like all of them are principles I keep today. Like they're all kind of ingrained in how I fence even to this day. I think that's like part of why I've made it this far. So yeah, that's my.
So COVID was your all-in moment?
COVID,
all right.
The pandemic.
Shout out COVID.
Shout out COVID. That was a good time.
Yeah, it was fun. And yeah, you did fence both of us. Fencing you actually was one of my all-in moments. And I've told you this before. I told you shortly after, probably maybe 6 months later or a year later. But fencing Tristan after COVID, when I was teetering on the edge of the sport, and I kind of decided that I wanted to come back all in and do it in theory. And I said that I wanted to do it. And then I show up to this tournament, one of the COVID replacement NACs in May 2021, and I have Tristan in my pool and my DE. And I know who he is on the fringe, a junior world team member, whatever.
Schmuck.
Yeah, lefty kid. I fenced him in a warm-up sometime years before, and he was a child.
Whoop my ass.
Yeah. And he just didn't let me beat him. I tried to big brother, whatever, big man him, whatever you want to call it. He just refused. He just showed me, I'm better than you right now. And it was such a humbling experience. Our elimination match to 15, direct elimination match, I fenced what I would consider to be the best I could have fenced on that day. I was calm. I fought really hard. I made changes, everything. I just wasn't as good as Tristan. It was so humbling that I realized that in order to go all in on fencing after college and really participate to the level that I was saying that I wanted to, that some things needed to change. And I had to have a really strong heart-to-heart with myself about whether or not I was all in. At which point I decided I was all in. So Tristan really inspired that all-in moment. So it's cool to hear that just it all goes around. Yeah.
Oh, Tristan just beat my ass at that defense of the semifinal. I was pretty tired, I guess.
That was the one you won, right?
Well, he was tired. So
No. Hang on. There's more.
I'm kidding.
I remember this bout as the closest I've ever been to throwing up from pure exhaustion, because Tristan was just giving me the work, man.
He didn't look tired.
And I gave it my all. I didn't fence any worse because I was tired, because I was really giving it everything I could possibly give it. And I remember Cedric, the Notre Dame coach, giving me this plan to execute, and it involved just moving a lot. And I was miserable. That was probably my most miserable loss ever, because it was just so challenging.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. And then I don't think I've ever beat you ever since. So there's that too.
Yeah, it's been years of misery.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring this up because I didn't know when I would bring it up. I'm just gonna do it. Tristan Szapary, more than anybody else I've ever fenced in my entire career, has the best win percentage on me. Practice, competition, doesn't matter. I can't beat this fucking guy. I'm gonna look at it. I can't do it. I've really tried reasoning with myself, some mental, fired up, and then he just hits me, and there's nothing I can do. And it's a work in progress. And maybe one day I'll figure it out, or maybe I won't, and I'll just cross my fingers that I don't run into Tristan at a competition that's important.
Straight to the camera.
Straight to the camera. I'm owning it. Tristan, I can't beat.
You're fencing him tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna lose.
I'm gonna sit and
gonna
watch.
lose.
So the thing is, though, the more you say that, then for me, there's nothing to win, because now it's just every time we fence at practice, he says it right before we fence, and it's all right, well, if I win, I'm just doing what's expected of me, and if I lose, it's everything comes crumbling down. So
good. And then you keep beating him.
Yeah.
All right, so
thanks for letting me make that announcement.
The actual first segment of this episode is called "The Why Behind the Win," and we just want to talk. And you definitely, it goes hand in hand with your all-in moment. Mm-hmm. And you talked about wanting to become the best version of yourself, and learning about how the sport is more than just competing, and it's about just focusing on the process, and then you're finding yourself, and you have this dog mentality, and that's all great. But what sparks your fire? What keeps you coming back to fencing today? Your post-grad, which is, especially in the United States, a really big moment for many top fencers. Sure. Where they decide, and it's not a permanent decision. You can come back whenever, as we've discussed with multiple people, but it's a pretty big decision. Am I going to keep this momentum going, or am I not? And you proved to keep it going. You had a really strong career year last year. while being first year post grad. And yeah, what's that spark? What's the coal that keeps this fire running?
It's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
The coal. I think for me, it's like there is no better feeling than just like getting the nicest touch in the world. And when I say nicest, not even it's like not even like, oh, back flick looks cool. It just means like the other person, you trick them so bad that like they're just shaking their head and they go touch. 'Cause like that means you did it. That should be like 4 touches.
Why are you looking at me? I did that to you last Wednesday like 3 times.
Well, it's a great feeling because like to me, like that is the essence of the sport, right? Like at its purest, like fencing is about tricking the person across from you, like setting up some traps, having them like fall for it, and then like capitalizing. So for me, and honestly, sometimes I get that like is a bad or like it jeopardizes my fencing, or in some ways like it holds me back because I also like sometimes I overcomplicate things. Sometimes it's actually like a lot better to go like the right thing to do. The nice thing to do is actually to like go simple, go direct, one tempo. And like sometimes I sort of distort it in my mind of like that's not the nice touch, even though that actually is like in given the circumstances like exactly what you should do. So in some ways, I'm not saying it's like in some ways it's held me back, but at the end of the day, like why I love coming to practice. We just had World Championships. I took 2 weeks off, and then I was like I have to go to practice, not because I'm trying to train, not because the October Knocks coming up, just because like it is so fun to just trick people on the strip. So yeah, I think that's very much integrated into my like the spark, but also that's like more largely speaks to like you said, I'm very process driven, but more like, how consistently can I be like a really, really hard fencer to fence? And like how consistently can I constantly trick the person across me to the point where you look at the score and it's 15, whatever, So for me, yeah, like honestly, and that's, I think it's one of my, I'm grateful for that my motivation is so closely tied to like the actual fencing itself, because I think that explains my, like all of my longevity. Since that, like if any other reason was the reason why I was fencing, I probably wouldn't be fencing post grad, right? Because there's just like other things, right? Like life gets in the way. There's like a lot of things going on, and there's not a lot of opportunity to like do this full time professionally. So like at a certain point, I'd have to give. But yeah, I just love that feeling so much, and have been able to still have fencing be part of my life in the way that I'm figuring everything out, that it would not make sense to stop.
No, I like it. Sorry. That's that's his hitting the ball.
Yeah.
Just that Novak joke. Yeah. Oh, you watched the episode.
Oh,
yeah.
I watched it. I did my homework.
Yeah. So it's cool to hear, something beyond the physical of the sport. It's the mental aspect, the strategic aspect in conjunction with the physical. But it's good that and I know the feeling you're talking about, and it's pretty addicting. It's a pretty good feeling to just like everything goes the way you intended it and you executed well. And that's very satisfying, very like dopamine hit thing about this sport that is,
it's a physical chess.
Yeah, that's
it's
the
like,
physical chess.
Checkmate.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's so good.
So no, that's a great coal.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Great coal for the fire.
When are we gonna hear your guys's? Are you guys gonna get on this podcast somewhere? Like when are we flipping the seats?
We can flip it right now. We both talked about it.
Oh yeah, mine was pretty stupid.
What was yours?
I was just like, I don't know. It's what I do. Something like that.
For me, it just makes me feel alive. The whole. If you look at the entire picture, that's why I keep doing it. The community is something that I continuously love engaging with, and I have so many friends across multiple generations in the sport. My former mentors that are now coaches or done with the sport, my peers from when I was younger, they were the same age as me. Some of us are still doing this sport in various capacities. And then some of the younger guys that I got to be teammates with in college, compete against, and I'm now on senior team with, like you, Steven, and whatnot. I'm not currently on senior team, but you know what I mean. I mean, not yet. Yeah, not yet. We're working on it. And that plus just understanding that, you spoke about longevity. I've been in the sport for quite some time. And I realized, Unc has a lot left to give the sport from a mentorship and content, seriously, like stuff like this podcast,
Making a brand.
and it's not so much about me as understanding that when I was younger, I'll put it to you this way. When I was younger, I just was fencing because it was fun, like you talked about. The people around me started doing really well. Anton Piskovatskov was the Justin Yu of the South.
Soup.
And Anton and Justin were the guys. There was nobody better in America. There were some other amazing talents, but nobody was as consistent and as strong as Anton and Justin. That was inspiring to me. I started to train harder so I could compete with them, to beat them, people above us. All of a sudden, something flipped, and I was a part of that group. I was one of the guys. And then all of a sudden, I won world championships in cadet, so I had a lot of potential, got to interact with amazing athletes and fencers of that time, Sabrina Masialis, Axel Kiefer, Eli Dershowitz, Andrew Machkevich, excuse me, and Alex Masialis, Rayson Bowden, Lee Kiefer. And in that moment, standing on top of a world championships podium, I decided I want to be Lee Kiefer.
The GOAT.
The GOAT, literally the GOAT of our sport. I want to be someone who has that type of impact on our sport. And this was in 2013. We didn't even scratch the surface of what Lee would be doing for the sport. Lee is such a freaking legend. Since then, has done so many amazing things. But at that time, that's what I wanted to do. And going into juniors, it was a little rocky, but then I made a senior team at 17. I still thought that I could leave that impact. A couple more years go by and I realized that I still love fencing, but I'm not ever, like, the time has passed for me to do that. I'm not going to be Lee Kiefer. I'm not going to be Alex Masialis. I'm not going to be these legends in the same way. The clock's not done ticking. I can win senior worlds at some point, or the Olympics, if everything goes right? That's why a lot of us are still training to compete at that level. That being said, I understood as I got older that I still want to have an impact on the sport and give back to the sport that's given me so much. And it was a less self-driven purpose, and it became a lot more about helping others when I got to coach at the NCAA level. And I understood that my purpose was about elevating others. And through that process, it was helping me heal through all the stuff that I've gone through in my life to elevate myself. And my goal is constantly, as many of ours is self-improvement, self-mastery. Mm-hmm. And I understood that through my moments of major ego, I didn't do the best job of elevating others. And I want to elevate the people around me because I'm surrounded by a lot of amazing people. And that's why I started the Favorite Fencing Touch series. And
a classic.
Yeah. That's so it actually started. Shout out Dasha, my girlfriend, came up with the idea. I was trying to come up with fun internet stuff. Convoluted story to how we got there. We don't need this is your episode, not mine. But she said, why don't you ask people what their favorite fencing touch is, and you can just record that and record it and show them doing it or something. Mm-hmm. So we went along with it, and I realized how much fun it was and how much fun people had being on camera and then showing that. And then I had a fairly large platform already just through the connections that I had made on Instagram throughout my life. And then it just spiraled. And I got to coach as well and saw people do things that they didn't know they were capable of. And just being a part of that something bigger has been a part of my why behind the win.
It's good stuff. We need that. Yeah. We need both of you guys and things like that. Yeah. It's funny. Like, I feel like it's fun seeing all the high level fencers like find the way that they can give back to the sport. And for a bunch of them, it's like actually pursuing it full time, being a professional, also like going into coaching or mentorship in what way, and like that's incredible because that's what the sport needs is like people to buy back in internally. But also, even if because all of us have careers outside of fencing, if that's not going to be you who can do it completely full time, like still finding your way of giving back. In this case, like producing something awesome like this. And honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what mine's going to be and like how I'm going to still, for no matter what, always stay involved and give back to USA Fencing because of what fencing's given to me. Like, I'm still trying to figure that out, but I love that you guys have done this.
How old are you?
23.
23. How old are you, Steven?
26.
How old were you when we started this podcast?
25.
So Steven's he found his thing when he was 25, and I started the series of like starting to really elevate others on my platform when I was started in 2023, which would make me 27, I think, in 2023. So point is,
I got time.
You got time. You have time. This is something some people don't like. Look at Seth Kelsey.
That's true.
He went full time into it, and then he stepped away. And only now in 2024 did he start really coming to give back.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
You have all the time in the world. And the fact that you're already thinking about it, Tristan, testament to your maturity and just where you're at and why we want to have you as a guest on this episode.
Appreciate that, sir.
So I've been hogging this episode, which is a constant problem that we got. Steven, take us away.
I'll never say anything, Ari. You do a good job talking. So
Yeah.
you talk good.
No, I'm talking here. I think we're like somewhere here.
Yeah, but my why. No, I'm just kidding. So we did write this in. I don't know if it's appropriately placed, and you did touch on it earlier. We did want to ask you about switching from foil to épée. Why, when, how, what was that like? And, it strikes chords with me hearing you talk about your origins as well. This classical, you don't pick up the blade, you just do footwork. You start with foil, then you have maybe permission to switch to épée, right?
Yeah.
So tell us more about this
Sure.
traditional start to fencing.
Yeah. It's funny. So I fenced foil for 5 years, and I loved foil too. And like even to this day, like college fencers know like something you do when you're just like you've been grinding all season is you always pick up the other weapons.
Yep.
Because like you're just looking for release, and those were some of my favorite practices. So like I actually love like just like randomly picking up a
Who's
foil.
the best foilist you've beaten in foil?
I think I beat Jasper once to 5, but I will say Jasper Levy, he also every time he fences épée beats me like every single time. So
We lost to Nick at
Yeah, Nikita beat us one time.
classic the foil to
The
épée.
one time it mattered.
Yeah.
No,
We got punished.
Yeah, all right. Cedric again, Notre Dame coach.
We had a practice tournament, and it was like a pool, and foil finished first, obviously. And Nikita, and they had less people. And so Nikita came over, and he was like,
The premise for all this is Cedric was constantly pointing out that,
Oh,
and he was
yeah.
right at the time. Steve and I were not mentally tough enough, and neither was the rest of
To
us.
handle the smoke.
We did not handle the smoke.
no, we did not. He went undefeated in the pool. That was pretty cool.
That's what they do, bro. The foils come, they just put on like that body cord and it's over.
Yeah, especially Nick Aiken,
Yeah.
and he does it in foil too.
So I fenced foil for 5 years, and I struggled so hard. I think I also was a little taller than everyone else, so I didn't have the point control, and it frustrated me so much that I could set up this beautiful attack. Right, like I already talked about, I'm trying to set up nice touches. I got a clear pair of posts, and these kids would just boom esquive, contort their bodies out of the way, and I just flail and boom, I miss, and oh, that's touch for them, and that was kind of defined how I fenced foil. Is I would just constantly be out
maneuvered.
Yeah, but it wasn't even I was second intention, boom, 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 oh, and then they duck right under my blade. And honestly, it's a huge skill. It's just not a skill that I, in my awkward 12-year-old body could cope with. And then, a bunch of kids at my club were fencing épée, and sometimes I'd use it at practice. And then I remember once I picked up one of the practice, one of the épées. And my coach told me, I was like, oh, how do I fence épée? I'm a foilist. How do I fence épée? And he was like, oh, it's like foil, but instead of keeping your arm back, you keep your arm forward. I'm like, okay. So then I go to a qualifier, a nationals qualifier, and I just keep my arm really straight and out, not so differently from how I fence now. And I won that, but it's also this local thing. Barely anyone showed up. I'm like, all right, whatever. I won it, and also I didn't win the foil one, I think. So it's okay, that's weird, but whatever. And then I go to JO's, I fence foil, my main event. I do very average because that's how I was as a foil fencer. And then in épée, I actually make it out of pools, which I was really proud about. And I'm just having a great time learning this new thing. And then in my first DE, I run at the guy because I forget épée is a little slower, and I just get bodied. So that was my first ever real épée tournament. My second real ever épée tournament was Salt Lake City, Youth NAC, Y14. Again, I'm there to fence foil. I'm a foilist, so I bring all my stuff. But I throw in my the practice épée, from my club in my bag. So I'm like, all right, I might as well. If I'm there, I'm gonna sign up. So first day, I like lose in the 32s to like some really small kid who's squirming out of the way. And then the next day I fence épée and I win like my first ever NAC, beating Mike Bissinger in the final. He's gonna hate that I said that.
Yeah, shout out, Mike.
Shout out Mike, who ended up being a very close teammate of mine and a friend to this day.
What was the score?
Score, like 15-12.
We know he cried.
Anyway, yeah, like, and it completely, and it's funny enough, like I actually felt tremendous shame after that NAC, because I was like from winning like the first qualifier, I was like a D. Already I was like, wow, I shouldn't be a D. I worked so hard in foil I worked 5 years to get my C in foil. Like, why am I a D? And then I win this NAC out of the blue and I'm an A. I was like, to get an A in foil, like there was like very few kids who did that. It was such a big thing. And then I just like kind of jokingly like sign up for this épée event and I get an A. Like that doesn't feel right. It like felt wrong. I was like, oh, like I felt like an imposter. So I remember like showing up to practice feeling really uncomfortable because I'm like, oh, I'm like kind of phony. Like I shouldn't be an épéist. Like that didn't make sense. So
Was the next practice you showed up to a foil or an épée practice?
that I don't remember. But either way, that's sort of how I started. And then by the end of that season, it became abundantly clear that I was far better at épée than I was at foil, for various reasons. So yeah, that's like, it was right after that I made the switch. But it's funny, like we talked about it with like the college fencing, like that foil to épée switch. I honestly think there's some level, it's not beginner's luck, but it's just like the way that foil works, and there's like this aggression and like this really like you have such strong blade work that when you make that transition to épée, like épéists get kind of confused. That kind of explains like why I was able to win this, because the following season, like of course I didn't get any NAC medals. I was just like an average épée fencer, but there's a little bit of that luck of like moving over to épée and then feeling like you're a dog. And then you get humbled right after for like a whole season after. But also it was very clearly the right decision for me. So
the fundamentals are there. You're not the only foilist to transition to épée and do very well. Dylan French has a foil background. Andras Harani was a great American foilist who switched to épée and made almost a full Olympic run, was on a senior team afterwards. And the list goes on. Yeah. Cruz Chambry is still straddling, but he is, sorry to say this live, Cruz, you're way better at épée. You are so good at épée. But you're an Olympian in foil, which is incredibly impressive and amazing. But the skill in épée is...
See, at least you figured it out at 14. This kid's in college. He
I know,
still doesn't
still
know.
grappling.
He needed Ari Simmons to tell him on a podcast.
honestly, he should do both. He's
Yeah,
good.
no, he's honestly like a two-weapon. He's legit at both.
Yeah.
Second day at Senior Worlds
That's pretty
and foil as well is no joke. I'm messing around, but you have plenty of people that, it's not an uncommon thing to get the fundamentals in
Sure.
foil, and then so long as you can shift the mind and make that correction, because a lot of them stick to this and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the ones that do, and yeah, they figure it out, and it's good. That's cool. So I think we've talked about a lot of the stuff Steven and I wanted to bring up.
Yep.
And you've touched on it really well naturally. Maybe you're not as good as Ann Sabula, but your storytelling's pretty good. And you've talked about a lot of that transition and whatnot. I think there is an overall topic we want to discuss in general, and it's this transition from being a lifelong student as a middle school, high school fencer, college fencer, to then moving to this professional life, this post-grad. I have a job. You're in the middle of preparing for med school. We know you sent out your applications. Fingers crossed those go well. But yeah, and we just want to talk about that and your transition. You have handled that transition to the real world better than most people, and not without challenges. I know very closely and intimately through our relationship that there were many challenges in there, but if you can, just highlight a little bit of how you're able to make the shift and maybe what habits you can credit that resilience or success to.
Yeah, happily. So that transition, it's not, I took it for granted without a doubt. I've talked to both of you guys about this, but
Yeah.
like for some reason in my mind, like there's a very clear transition between high school and college. And like literally that transition is sort of cemented, like you have like a 3-week orientation or however long your college does it, where like, oh, this is gonna be a different thing. Like you expect some things to change. And then, many college fencers who were formerly like amazing high school fencers also go through change, or like, in many ways face challenges. Like now you have, like harder classes, you're away from home, you're training harder. You've got like a social life that's now like kind of encroaching on everything. So that is very established, but then so few people actually pursue the professional fencing, the post-grad fencing, that it's not that other transition isn't talked about. So I was like, oh, okay. Like
It is now.
it is, yeah, I guess.
Thank you.
That transition of like, like I'm gonna have total freedom. Like now I can completely control how I train. Like it's actually gonna be easier. Like, before going into it, I was like, oh, this is gonna be freeing. And then I actually got there and I start training kind of wrong, and I'm like kind of pushing myself too hard. I didn't give myself so for reference, once I graduated college, I moved here to the city. I started a job working in a lab. Shout out my lab. And like, there's an adjustment to like working a 9 to 5 versus like going to class at like 10:30 and then going to practice at 4:30. So started training in a way that probably wasn't the smartest. Tore my labrum in my shoulder while I was fencing at the AC. Well, you guys were both there. And have to take 2.5, 3 months off. And it's like my first real serious injury, one that I'm missing like max for. And I'm even like contemplating taking undergoing surgery and taking like 6 months off, a surgery that you actually ended up doing for your non-fencing arm that you've now since recovered. Let's go.
Oh, just kidding.
Don't move that arm too fast.
Just kidding. We're good.
Clip it.
Yeah, knock on wood. Yeah, so I think it was, and I do some PT. I'm able to get to a place where I'm actually able to fence again, but all of a sudden I'm fencing World Cups, and like I'm fencing at a fraction of the level that I'm used to, and like things are still not getting put together. And it's like, all right, it's kind of confusing because now I'm like mostly, I wasn't 100% healed, but I'm healed enough to fence. Like things are still not sort of, falling into the right places. And I even get cut from pools at World Cup, my first World Cup ever. And of course, that happens to many great fencers, and I knew that, but it had not yet happened to me. I thought maybe I could be exempt from that. Like I had the mental fortitude to not happen. And then boom, I'm in Doha earlier this year, 2025, and I get cut from pools. And I think I took a step back in those moments. I'm like, okay, clearly post-grad is like not as easy as, not that I thought it'd be easy, but it's clearly things have to change in a way that I was not expecting. So I kind of drew on like many of the resources that I had. For example, I reached back out to Mitch Green, that sports psychologist. Like since high school, I hadn't really done like consistent sessions with him, but anytime I've like, had a low point in my career, probably like once every year and a half, I reach back out to him, and that's the moment I reach back out to him. And I also went back to doing a lot of those early techniques that he taught me way back in high school that I first did during COVID, in the meeting season after COVID. For example, I'll just give one, like journaling after every practice. Like that's something I did all of high school. It's probably like half of the reason why I made it a first junior team. And then I get to college, and like college, we start practicing every single day, and I like just can't keep it up because I got classes and a social life. So I went back to a lot of those basics. I also reached back out to that old mentor and teacher, sports psychologist of mine, who taught me a lot of these right things. And I implemented some changes. For example, like I realized that like one of the changes with post-grad life is like, yeah, you're working a job. Sometimes it's going to be impossible to train in the way that you expect to train. And I was putting way too much pressure on how I was expected to train. Like trying to replicate this college system like 5 times a week, 6 times a week, 2-a-days. It's like you're like working a job. You're not going to be doing consistent 2-a-days, like unless you want to like fall asleep, at your desk. So I started not necessarily cutting back the volume of how I was training, but training a lot smarter and taking a lot of pressure off of for example, like if work runs too late and I'm at the lab too late, I realize like I'm not going to make it to practice. Instead of earlier in the season, I would have like, eaten my meal prep super fast and ran there and then gotten like 2 bouts and fenced horribly, and I would be worse off. I just skip practice and instead like find some other way to train. Like maybe I'll just go to the gym and do some PT or like a 30-minute session. So I like rearranged how I train. Instead of fencing like 6 days a week, 5 days a week, fencing 2 to 3 days a week, investing a lot more in my like strength and conditioning and getting healthy. All of these things were changes I had to make, but also in some ways like it's a risk. Like you have to actually, things, you might have to tweak some things, but then you have to actually buy in and do those things. And that's kind of risky because the stuff from you did in the past is the stuff that worked. That's how you got there. So how, like, if you change it now, is it going to help? So yeah, my biggest advice to anyone who's navigating the post-grad fencing scene is don't expect to train. Don't expect everything to be the same as it was in college or whatever worked before. Like, no matter what, things are going to change. It's a matter of working through that and figuring out, like, in many ways, that's probably going to be for the better. And that's what it was for me. I realized that if I change these things in a certain way, I'll actually sort of get to fence a lot more how I want to fence, and things will start sort of clicking even more. So, yeah, take pressure off. That's what I would say.
I think it's a great answer. And I think it applies for high school to college as well. Just any time you're undergoing a major change in your life, things are not going to be the same.
No, sir.
Clinging to trying to make them the same is a losing battle, and you might want to retain the essence of what worked rather than actually replicating exactly what worked, because you're changing too as a person, right? It's like taking a fish from one type of water and putting it in another water and expecting it to act the exact same way it did in this original type of water. And it's like, in order for the fish to survive in that type of water, it's going to have to change. Right. Sometimes they die. That's a horrible analogy. I don't think freshwater fish go to salt. Okay. I'm not known for being great at analogies, but what I will say is that's a great piece of advice.
Sure.
Or a great fish owner.
Yeah. I'm a bad fish owner. Don't gift me fish. Stephen, what's next?
We were hoping to talk a bit about coming off of the end of this last season. You had a career best, incredible result back in June. I think it was June. Yeah, it's June. We were hoping that you could just walk us through that experience. Tell us more about it. What went right? What happened? You fenced out of your mind, dude.
You,
and not in like that's never going to happen again way. It was like Tristan just evolved as a Pokemon. And I'm glad we got to like document this on YouTube because it was great to watch.
Thank you.
So yeah, could you just tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, that was a pretty special trip for me because first of all, we were in Rio, which was, I love many of the places that we go, but to spend like 10 days at our tournament in Rio, pretty awesome. It's a very beautiful country. There's just, amazing food. Everything about Rio de Janeiro was just incredible. So not only was the place and the venue cool, I also brought my girlfriend, shout out Isabel. And we also had a great time. And in some ways that took some pressure off of the actual competition because, it was also the first time that I was only traveling with someone completely uninvolved or, separate from the fencing world. And that way it was actually huge for me because on days when I wasn't fencing, I truly wasn't just like in the hotel thinking about fencing. I was, exploring food, getting food with Isabel. So that part was really cool too. And then in terms of my actual fencing, there was also I'm glad that you visually could identify some changes because that's kind of what it felt like for me where I think mentally I found like a whole new depth to my focus in a way, right? That's always what I'm trying to cultivate with all the mental techniques I was talking about before. I'm trying to find this place where I'm like really centered, focused, not thinking about the result, just thinking about the touch. And on that day, I felt like I, found a way to get there at a depth that I was not used to, or at least had never hit me before. And fence truly how, in my vision of this is how I want to fence, right? This whole time I've just trying to become the best I can possibly be. And this is probably the closest I'll ever, this is the closest image I have to that. So it was really cool. And I'm very grateful to have sort of embodied that for a day. And now it's a matter of, putting the pieces together continuously and figuring out how to do it again. But I feel like I'm in a good place with my fencing and having sort of having the evidence that can happen, I think is very rewarding, or it gives you the confidence that, okay, this is the level of fencing. This is what I'm capable of doing. Just a matter of keep doing what I'm doing and, it'll come again.
I mean, capable of being a champion, beating champions. You beat two very, very strong champions, both of which would be awesome to have on this podcast at some point. Sam is going to have to do it. He doesn't have a choice. Yeah. Sorry, Sam.
Sorry, Sam.
But Sam and Ruben Lamardo are the two best people in our region that you could have fenced, and they are the only two ranked higher than you in the world right now. Before that, there were a few others ranked higher than you, but they're the only two that are ranked higher than you, and you beat both of them. And both of those bouts were your two of your biggest wins, other than Koki Kano, world number one, earlier in the seasons. And this all came within a month. So that we all saw that evolution, and it was really cool. And it's cool to see you bring that to practice, even after not fencing and all this stuff. And like it's there. And I think we should try something. We haven't done this yet on the podcast, but do you mind just discussing that final bout where you're going in on one of the men's épée Mount Rushmore placeholders, just for his longevity in the sport? He's been winning medals in the sport since probably before you were alive. Ruben's born in 1985 and you're born in 2001. By the time he was 16, I think he was already winning international medals.
Showing off your ball knowledge there. That was good.
I mean, he's truly amazing. And it's an honor to fence him. I've gotten a chance to do it a handful of times in both competition and warm-up, and he never makes it easy. Even though you cooked him, I'm sure you were fighting for every single point. He's so physically, he doesn't let you believe for a second that he's 40. He can move. He can beat your blade. He's incredibly fast and sharp. Can you go through that bout a little bit, or any moments of that bout for us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, props to Ruben, 2012 Olympic champion, and still to this day giving people a hard time. So that bout, it came after a long day, especially in the bout before where I fenced a teammate, which you never love to fence a teammate, but fortunately me and Sam had to, go at it. That also, once I'd gotten after that bout, which also required some mental changes and some real fortitude, because Sam's a hell of a fencer and it's really, really, really hard to beat him. Going in, I had this sense of there was no fear. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And that is when you are completely, within your own self as a fencer. Like everything on the outside, all of the background of this guy he is on the Mount Rushmore of fencing, and yet it doesn't matter. He's just the person across from me. I think that was sort of the main sort of driving force in the back of my mind. And then when we were actually fencing, I trusted my coach. I did the things and actually kind of returned to some of the original, because this season I got really creative and I tried some new things, which really kind of helped me, break some of my former records, or at least personal bests. But in that bout, I actually returned to some of the old stuff I did, and I just did them, at a level that I'd never done before, to the point where after I actually talked to my coach, and it actually felt like we were in some ways doing a lesson. And that's when you know that you're fencing your best, is when the bout feels like a lesson. And then I'll shout out Alexi, my coach. He then said, that's the whole point. In a lesson, it's supposed to be hard, so that when you're fencing, it's supposed to be easy. So yeah, I think in that moment, just doing the things that, it was kind of a full circle moment for me, because despite having tried all these creative new things, then I kind of go back to something I've been doing since I was a junior, when I first had my breakout season, and having them get to the point where I felt like they were close to mastered, and being able to pull them off effectively against one of the greatest fencers of our generation. That was really special for me, and far more important than say the points that I gained from, whatever happened in my world rank, or, anything related to that. So yeah. And thank you for allowing me to talk about it.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's an inspiration to all U.S. men's épéists. You and Sam are the first two champions that we've had in the zone since Seth and that generation, right? We've had medalists, but we haven't had champions. And we had back-to-back champions, Sam and then you. And that's awesome. We're the reigning individual gold medalists and now silver medalists with the team. There's a big come
team
up.
Next.
Yeah, team is coming.
Team next.
So yeah, shout out Ruben, shout out Alexi, your coach. Steven.
I think it's about that time, Ari.
It is?
I think it is about that time.
Oh yeah, it is probably about that time.
Time flies when you're having fun.
We got carried away.
I've been hogging all the questions this time.
No, you're doing
I'm
great,
just looking
Ari.
at Steven and
Don't
being like,
overthink
you should ask something right now. Looks like you'll be asking something next episode. No, but
we're going to get into the best segment, one line answers.
Okay.
So we're going to ask you rapid fire questions. You're going to need to answer whatever comes to your head first. Don't think too hard about it. Give us what you got, all right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to test reactions.
Very important in fencing.
Yeah. All right. Ari, you want to take it away or you want me to take it away?
I think I owe you the ball right now. I passed it to you.
Oh, boy.
Ball hug.
Yeah.
Not like we're going to alternate or anything. All right, Tristan.
How about you go 2
ready?
in a row?
No, it's fine.
No, yeah, you go 2 in a row.
I'm not going 2 in a row.
Fighting.
Fine.
All right.
Mom and dad are fighting.
Are you ready?
Hit me.
If we get divorced, it's your fault. Who are your 2 favorite fencers?
Ruben Lamardo and Yamada.
Yeah. What's the favorite? I think you might have just said it. What's your favorite city that you've gotten to fence in or compete in?
Rio de Janeiro.
Easy.
What's in your equipment bag that probably shouldn't be in there?
I have like these like goo gels, and I have a bunch of other snacks and stuff, and I keep them in a Ziploc bag. But then one of the goos burst, so like it's all of it. I'm too stingy to throw everything out, but they're just covered in gel.
Covered in goo.
So I have to like, if I'm on a doormat, I like reach in there and I have to like kind of like take a bar out and then wash my hands.
You know, you could take your FAP socks and
All right,
scoop out the goo.
Next question.
Thanks for being honest there. Who's the most challenging bout that you have ever fenced, practice or competition?
Sam Emmerich, come on. Is it not for all of us?
For me, it's probably like Sam or Seth. Seth was really, really challenging, even in his not training years.
For me, physically, it was that one bout with you, but like challenge Yamada. Like, what do you do against Yamada?
Yeah.
Is it
Sing.
Jesus. Inside jokes over there.
You'll be a part of this.
That
one
was a
day.
really good one. No, you could
It's
probably
okay.
figure
Just
this one
go.
out.
Just go.
Anyway, all right. Who?
This is the problem when you have friends on podcasts.
No, that's not the problem. That's
the
the
joy.
solution. That's the solution.
All right. Who would win in a game of Super Smash Bros? Mark Masters or Alexei Tremsky?
Mark Masters.
Yeah.
Alexei would just get pissed and like throw the control on the ground.
All right. Would you rather live the rest of your life in Heidenheim, Germany with the cuisine of Bern, Switzerland, or Bern, Switzerland with the cuisine of Heidenheim, Germany?
That's such a fire question.
Steven came up
Bern,
with it.
no question. Heidenheim.
Wait, Bern
With the
live in
Heidenheim
Bern?
cuisine.
With the Heidenheim.
That's what I said.
You
I told
have
there's
like the beautiful city. You got the bear pit.
and Schwabian food.
And unfortunately, I missed this fondue, but you also get like a massive pork knuckle.
Schwabian food.
No
Schwabian
nooch? No nooch for Tristan?
No, thank you.
Okay. Steven's turn.
Oh, yeah. All right. The rest of your career, you have to either fence righty, épée, or saber. What are you doing?
I came up with this one.
That's so disrespectful. I'd probably go saber. It's funny. Like I've actually very few times tried saber, but it seems so fun. Like
Yeah.
even when I'd at those college practices, I'd very rarely go over to saber side. So yeah. Although there's nothing more disrespectful than fencing your non-dominant hand and like beating someone.
Yeah. Could have been you. How long do you plan on continuing your win streak on Steven asking for a friend?
Well, all Steven has to do is ask me for some advice, and we could piece it through together. But until then, I have no plan.
That's what he wants me to do, so he can
All right.
Give him the
give you false advice. What's your favorite piece of pre equipment?
These gloves are pretty good.
Yeah.
You are a fan of the glove.
Well, as far as that goes,
As far as that goes, Tristan, thank you so much for your time. This is honestly, the fastest one of these episodes has seemed for me. Like
You guys are becoming naturals.
it's because
No,
we
just-
ate the food. We had a meal halfway through.
5-minute segment. Yeah.
and just your beautiful smile and your can-do attitude. It really just made everything go by so quick.
Yeah, seriously, thanks for doing this. I know that at first you weren't sure what this whole thing was, and I just thanks for being open-minded and watching it, and I think you did a great job, and hopefully everyone who's listening is really becoming an even larger fan of you and your journey, and that's really what this is all about. This is giving you a platform, and that's just a little piece of the Tristan Szapary pie.
And I hope that they really do listen to the things you've said, because there's a lot of really good stuff in there that I believe in, and I think that you put it out there very well.
Thanks, man.
So I hope they truly do listen to you.
I appreciate you guys
Yeah.
for what you're doing for the fencing community.
Thanks, bro.
You guys are killing it.
Can't wait to fence you tomorrow.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
man.
Break.
All right. So
Pair
now-
on 3.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, pair.
Ari, help me. I can't see. Why these people haven't gone to Shop Pre or USA and bought the best gloves in the game. Seriously, everybody, get out there, go buy yourself some sick fencing equipment. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more episodes like this one.